Scott Lively is an author, attorney, right-wing activist, and a former candidate for governor of Massachusetts. And he went on Brian Fisher's radio show and put his distorted view of morality on full blast for us.
Well, Brian, I've been in this battle for a quarter of a century, and I've watched the disintegration of Christian civilization based here in America. And what we're seeing is the end stage of this process with so-called gay marriage. There is no such thing as gay marriage. God established the institution of marriage, one man and one woman. And what the Supreme Court is about to do, and make no mistake, they want to do this, is to find in our Constitution, by judicial fiat, a basis for marriage in homosexual sodomy. And this represents a crossing a line with God that hasn't occurred in the entire history of the world since Noah's flood. And this is not just the problem of sin, sexual sin that's been increasing, and that's a serious issue. But not since just before Noah's flood have human beings celebrated homosexual marriage. There have been many different cultures where homosexuality has been embraced. But according to the rabbis who wrote the Talmud, the final straw for God was when they started celebrating and engaging in homosexual and bestial marriages. The things that are identified in Scripture as the most egregious sins in the Bible, worse than murder, worse than genocide, is sexual perversion that breaks the relationship that God established for us to live by.
Wow. Thank you. I want to thank this guy because he just made one of the most persuasive arguments in favor of atheism right there. He's like, well, according to the Bible, sexual immorality, sexual perversion is worse than genocide. Homosexuality is worse than genocide, according to the Bible, according to God, according to my ideology. Well, thank you. You just turned a lot of people who were moderate Christians over into being agnostic or atheist or secular humanist, and they'll label themselves differently after they hear that. I love how he makes that argument, and he thinks like he's convincing people. He's like, well, see, this is the reason to be against homosexuality, because it's worse than genocide. Even if you are super brainwashed, even those people are going to pause and go, really? 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 So Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, is worse than a Nazi concentration camp guard. He's worse than the person that shoved people in the gas chambers. That's his argument. He said it. He just said it, and you just heard it. This isn't me, being unfair to his position. He just said it. That's unreal, man. That's unreal. That is the strongest argument in favor of atheism I've ever heard in my life. Because only somebody who has had their mind distorted from religion can argue that and think like, yeah, I'm showing them being attracted to people of the same sex and acting on it, that's way worse than gunning down a family. That's way worse than piles of dead bodies. That's way worse than Nazi Germany. It's stunning that he believes that, and it's almost like federal agencies should keep an eye on this guy because of how extreme he is. Because if you really believe that, you're really not that far away from the next step, which is literally becoming the Christian ISIS, which is well, it's worse to be gay than to do genocide, so therefore it would be proper of me to do a genocide of the gays because the gays are the worst of the worst. He's talking about gays there as I know I keep bringing up the Nazis, but it's true. He's talking about the gays like the Nazi regime talked about the Jews. The way he saw it's worse to be... The Nazis used to say it's worse to be a Jew than it is to be a dog, an animal. Hitler literally believed that Jews were lower than animals. And this is how he's talking about these people. It's worse to be gay, it's worse to have gay marriage and have gay sex than it is to do a genocide. And I love his other argument, well, there's no such thing as gay marriage. Again, I don't even know what that means. What are you saying? And then he goes, well, you have to go by God's standard in the Bible because God says so. So no gay marriage because God says so. Well, marriage, according to the Bible, is polygamy, but you're anti-polygamy too, so what the fuck's up with that? You're a raging hypocrite. Polygamy is mentioned more in the Bible than any other form of marriage. So what are you doing? Apparently you haven't read the thing that you believe so closely and that you take as literally true. Also, men sell their daughters off to their rapists in the Bible. So there's some biblical marriage for you. And also, I love this one. Men in the Bible, they're examples of men castrating themselves and then living lives of celibacy. I love how I always do this when I say castration. Like, chop the dick. But that's in the Bible. Castrate yourself, live a life of celibacy. So this guy, sell your daughter off into sex slavery and chop off your junk if you really want to live according to biblical values.